Okay, let's just dive right into this, because the premise we're exploring today is honestly absolutely mind-bending. In this explainer, we're decoding a fascinating source document that makes a seriously bold claim. It argues that the ancient Indian practice of mantra sadhana operates using the exact same underlying mechanics as a modern nuclear explosion. Crazy, right? We usually think of mantras as just soothing chants or, simple meditations to calm the mind. But what we're looking at today frames them as something much, much more explosive. It suggests these ancient practices were actually designed as a precise science of energy manipulation, literally capable of unlocking immense latent power. The source material draws this incredibly stark comparison, and it's fascinating. Think about the physical level for a second. An atomic bomb relies on the initial splitting of atoms to multiply physical energy into a terrifying chain reaction. Now, look at the parallel to a mantra explosion. Mantras are constructed of these eternal sound components, basically deeply resonant vibrations. And just like physical atoms, when these specific sound components are effectively split through intensely focused practice, they multiply spiritual and physical energy in a remarkably similar way. It's this invisible yet incredibly potent chain reaction of sound and consciousness. So here's the crucial point. You can't just split an atom by looking at it, right? It takes a highly specific environment to trigger that chain reaction. Well, a mantra works exactly the same way. Just casually speaking words out loud, that's not going to cut it. To trigger this massive release of energy, the practitioner has to combine four essential pillars. We're talking intense sentiment, dedicated rituals, deep faith, and relentless penance. Together, these create a sort of spiritual pressure cooker. These four pillars are absolutely essential. Without them, the mantra just stays dormant. But with them, the practitioner awakens an unstoppable flow of hidden power. And this internal pressure cooker we just talked about, it actually extends right out into the physical world. The rituals require tools, sure, but in this context, they are no longer just ordinary objects. Through the power of intentional invocation, everyday items literally transform into divine conductors of energy. Take the water used for purification, for example. It isn't just tap water anymore. Specific chanting invokes GURUDEV, the deity of water, transforming it into a highly charged spiritual conductor. The sitting mat, the lamp, the 5 vessels, the sandalwood. The traditional rules for using these items aren't just meaningless, dusty old traditions. They are a highly precise method for turning mundane matter into the highly charged instruments you need for the practice. Which brings us to a really fascinating psychological and spiritual mechanism known as prana-pratishta. Now, you might recognize this as the logic behind idol worship, but the text actually frames it as a highly advanced technology of the mind. It's the act of projecting intense, concentrated faith directly onto a physical symbol. By doing so, the practitioner is essentially programming that physical object with emotional magnetism. So the idol or symbol ceases to be just a piece of stone or metal. It becomes an active, radiating source of immense inspiration. Think of it as a way for the human mind to interface with the infinite by giving it a localized physical anchor. But to actually handle this kind of raw projected energy, you need a meticulous step-by-step sequence. First up is Pavitrikaran, which is the purification of the physical space and the gross body. Then comes Achaman for a much deeper internal cleansing. Third is pranayama, or the control of breath and life force. And finally, nyasa, which is the mental placement of divine forces right into specific parts of the practitioner's own body. The whole purpose of this exact progression is to deeply purify the gross, subtle, and causal bodies. Basically, you are actively upgrading your internal wiring so you don't short-circuit when that massive surge of mantra energy finally hits. Now, consider this profoundly beautiful maxim from the text: one must become a deity to worship a deity. I mean, that brilliantly captures the ultimate purpose of all those preliminary rituals we just walked through. You aren't just paying respect to some external god. You are actively elevating your own human mind and body to a divine frequency. To truly interact with and harness these ultimate powers, the practitioner literally has to elevate their own state of being to match that exact divine resonance. But wait, this goes way beyond just spiritual preparation. There is direct, hard, physical science at play here. Sound isn't just a metaphor or a purely spiritual concept in this context. It is tangible, physical energy. Did you know that continuous, concentrated audio waves can actually generate enough thermal energy to bring water to a rolling boil? Grounding the ancient practice of mantras in the physical laws of acoustics and thermodynamics proves something kind of incredible. Spoken words carry the literal, physical power to alter matter. So, what exactly happens when you turn that acoustic energy inward? Well, relentlessly focusing on a single mantra creates an eternal flow of thought. This continuous acoustic and energetic focus acts like a massive magnet. It rides and directs your entire thinking process. And over time, this concentrated mental magnetism actually rewires the brain. It corrects deep-seated psychological flaws and permanently transforms your fundamental nature. So you're not just reciting words, you are actively reprogramming your own mind at the deepest possible level. Which finally brings us to the absolute core secret of this entire exploration, the concept of sphota, which translates to the word explosion. This is the mysterious climax of mantra practice. When the preparations, the faith, and those continuous sound vibrations all reach a critical mass, a split actually occurs in the eternal sound components. Remember the atom analogy? Just as splitting an atom releases massive kinetic energy, splitting these eternal sound components through rigorous chanting and fire rituals releases immense invisible wave energy. It is an explosive release of power, triggered entirely by the absolute mastery of sound. And this perfectly illustrates exactly why specific syllables matter so much. The visionary sages who created them, they weren't just making up pretty songs. They were essentially acting as early quantum architects. They meticulously engineered these exact sound configurations specifically to trigger this reality-altering sphota. The rituals, the syllables, the precise tones, they are all part of a highly calculated ancient technology designed to deliberately detonate this energetic explosion. To really put into perspective how powerful this is, the text makes a fascinating comparison between two masters of ancient disciplines, the yogi and the mantric. A traditional yogi focuses primarily on breath, or prana, which means they are essentially manipulating the element of air, or vayu. On the other hand, the mantric focuses on sound, the word. And according to ancient elemental science, sound is the inherent property of ether, or space, known as akash. Okay, so why does this distinction actually matter? Well, because the element of space is infinitely more vast, subtle, and foundational than air, the text argues that a true mantric holds ultimate, superior power. A mantric is in no way lesser than a yogi and in fact can be significantly more powerful. Because while the yogi masters the breath within the confines of their physical body, the mantric is using the science of sphota to manipulate the very fabric of space itself through sound. Let that sink in for a second. Now, amidst all this awe-inspiring talk of quantum architecture and manipulating the very fabric of space, we really need to come back to a deeply human truth. All of this immense atomic-level power ultimately starts with one remarkably simple human act: generating a concentrated magnetic field of pure faith. It's that initial installation of dense faith in the deity or the mantra that acts as the spark. What starts out as a tiny, fragile seed of belief eventually grows into an absolute, unstoppable tree of power. So we've unpacked how this ancient science compares mantras to nuclear physics, how everyday rituals act as conductors, and we've explored the immense power of the word explosion or sphota. But I want to leave you with a final thought to really reflect on today. If this ancient discipline treats a single, deliberately spoken word like an unsplit atom, capable of immense creation or destruction, what kind of explosive reality are you creating with your everyday thoughts and words? It really makes you reconsider the immense latent power hiding in our casual daily conversations, doesn't it? Thanks for exploring this incredible text with me.